and a different point of view. Jurors in the Alex Murdaugh murder trial visit the former attorney's home, where they spent most of their time.
We are on the edge of our seats tonight. A verdict in the Alex Murdaugh murder trial could come in just a matter of days. Thanks for tuning into The Edge. I'm Morgan-Fogarty.
And I'm Kaitlin-Wright. For the first time, the jurors who will decide his fate saw the scene of the crime in person today. They visited Murdaugh's Moselle estate, where his wife and son were killed in June of 2021. They spent most of their time at the family's dog kennel and the shed where Maggie and Paul died. Morgan, what did this do for them? I know in some high-profile cases, O.J. Simpson, Nicholas Cruz, the jurors did go... Which is
the Parkland shooter.
Yes, in Florida, which happened, what, was that last year, 2 years ago now? Recently, though. In some of these high-profile cases, the judge will say, okay, I think that you guys can go. But in this case, it's been 20 months now since Paul and Maggie got murdered there. Everything has been cleaned up from what I saw today, other than bullet holes in a couple of the windows. But the blood splatterings, obviously all of that got cleaned up. Trees even were growing more so when they weren't before, so could have blocked some of that sound. I kind of get, okay, maybe they just need to be there and be present, but the facts are the facts. You being there and being present really isn't going to tell you anything.
Okay, so here's why they had to go. They had to go because from a defense point of view, the prosecutors did not want this visit to happen. The prosecutors said they don't need to go out there. They made all the points that Kaitlin just made. The trees have grown. It looks a little different now. The crime scene's been cleared up. There's no reason for them to go. The defense said they need to go so that they can see the logistics of where this crime happened and how Alex Murdaugh could not have done it because of the way that these buildings were positioned. When you go back to the O.J. Simpson case, they took jurors out to Brentwood. And that was interesting because both sides had different reasons for wanting that trip. The prosecutor said they wanted to show that it could have only been O.J. Simpson and not some sort of secondary shooter, multiple shooters, that there was only room for O.J. to have been there. His attorneys said there wasn't enough room for O.J. Simpson. It was too small of a space, and there had to have been somebody smaller out there.
Okay, but can't they pinpoint this in the courtroom? Sure, it's going to be 2D and not 3D with you seeing it with your own eyes, but you can say, okay, this was 20 feet away from this. And again, these really aren't like hardcore facts. The fact that Alex Murdaugh, one, lied at the very beginning, saying he was never at the dog kennels, which in fact then he had to retrace his steps and what he said because they heard his voice. Many people said, okay, no, that is you, and you did that. Like, I just don't think that this is, I don't know, I think that we need to get on with this because it's been, what, 27 or something days now?
Well, okay, so it was also a short visit. They were there for like 50 minutes total.
Yeah.
50 minutes total. They spent time primarily, as we said, at the dog kennels, which is where Maggie and Paul were found dead. Again, I think, yes, it's one thing to theoretically show something and have a model and have pictures when you're in a courtroom trying to explain to a jury box, this is what happened. It is a totally different scenario when you get to see something with your own eyes
but something
and
that
see how it laid
20
out.
Months. It's changed.
It has changed. The growth of the greenery has changed, but the buildings themselves have not moved.
So this, you're saying it's dependent on the scale of the property for them to say, he would have heard the shots because he's X far away.
All they have to do is plant a seed of doubt.
Yeah.
They don't have to hit a home run. For them, a home run is just planting a seed of doubt. Mm-hmm. If they can get one juror to say, I don't know, I don't think he did it, they win.
Oh, to be a juror in this case,
I know.
I cannot imagine the ups and downs and just hearing all of this, seeing these pictures.
The exhaustion.
It has been a wild case.
We, as you know, people watching it, get to dip in and out as we choose and live the rest of our lives. These jurors have been sitting there for 6 weeks, listening to hundreds of hours of testimony of the most minute details that you and I and Kaitlin would never find interesting, but they've got to sit there and listen to this. I bet also the jury was probably frankly grateful to get out of the courtroom for a little bit
Yeah.
and go see something else to help humanize this case, make it more tangible, make it more real.
It's been a cloudy day across the Carolinas, and it was down in the Midlands today too, a little bit cool, so that just kind of added probably to the heaviness that was on that property today.
Yeah, the reporter who went in after the jury pool left, or jurors left rather today, in their reporting said when they went into the feed room, which is where Paul was shot first,
oh my gosh.
they said it felt haunted.
Oh.
Which, you know, that's not journalistic reporting.
Sure.
That's just the feeling that that reporter had when they went into that space. Yeah. Now, another story that is on everyone's mind is what caused the coronavirus pandemic. The FBI blames the pandemic on a leak from a Wuhan lab. Chinese officials say that claim has no credibility. More than 7 million people have died as a result of the virus since it was first detected in December 2019. So, Kaitlin, FBI Director Christopher Wray made these comments on Fox News. The FBI's position on this is actually not new, but this is getting new attention, in part because not everybody, not all of the agencies that are investigating the pandemic agree with him and agree with the FBI's assertion that this was a lab leak.
Then why say it? I think that was way too soon. I think that other agencies, like you said, have other scientific facts to say, no, this could have been a bat that transmitted it to this and this. Why cause this whole thing if you guys are not all on the same page? And quite frankly, I think it's a little too late. Over, what was it, like 7 million people have died, 1.1 million in the United States. Like, sure, I think we could find the cause of it to prevent this from happening in the future. But as far as him speaking like that, I think that was way too premature.
So yeah, and I think there are people who would say we have to absolutely find the cause of this pandemic because it will help us mitigate the next one. And not only that, but if it was a lab leak, which again, there is no agreement on that across the board from all these agencies. If it was a lab leak, they want to be able to crack down on lab policies and procedures and make sure that they do what they can, if they can, do anything to contain a virus when it's in a lab environment. Labs that handle viruses, that study viruses, it's inherently dangerous work anyway, but it's necessary work.
I just think that the FBI speaking on this, though, before it is fact, it just sent people into a spiral that was just unnecessary.
It causes a lot of geopolitical issues as well, because if this was a lab leak and this was not transferred from animal to human, which is the other working theory out there. If this was a lab leak, that causes a lot of problems for China in its relationship with other countries across the globe, and how they handle that, how they mitigate that. That's, of course, why China is coming out swinging, saying there's no credibility to that claim because they don't want there to be credibility
of course
to
not.
that claim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are going to come out swinging. Already are.
There's more Edge on the way. Cheating